Guess who's back? Back again. Axon's back for another tier list. So we're back for another tier list, right? My last tier list was like almost a month ago, and my last Genshin tier list was almost a month ago. You know, I've been uploading a couple of videos here and there, but you know, we're back for another tier list, and you know, this will be a very interesting tier list because you know, there's a lot of shakeup that happened. There was a lot of comments I got from my last video that gave me some thoughts. Not all of them were positive thoughts, but you know, thoughts that I will take into account into this tier list. And I have a lot to say about these new characters that have just come into Genshin Impact, because two of these new characters, they're very interesting because, you know, one is a bit underdeveloped, one is I want all your money's worth of a character. So we're gonna get into that, and you'll figure out at the end of this video which one is the one who's trying to steal all your money. But you know, the other one, you know, I kind of like him a lot. There's a lot of characters to talk about, so you know, and there's a lot of shakeups. So if you're gonna skip into the end of the video, there's gonna be a lot of characters that I have a lot of new opinions on that I'm probably gonna promote and demote a lot of characters. Now, going over my criteria, because people tend to forget what my criteria is because I always get new viewers. So first off, subscribe, because in case you guys don't know, 99% of the people, yes, 99%, that means you, the viewer watching, you have a 99% chance of not being subscribed. So subscribe, you know, it's free. You like all my other videos. I do a bunch of plethora of videos besides Genshin and Genshin. You know, I do some anime tier list videos and all that. You know, I talk about animes that you might like and very popular anime, so just subscribe. It's free. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment what you think down in the comments below. But subscribing is free. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like my content in the future, but just subscribe. It's free, please. Alright, back to the video. So there's a lot of characters I need to shake up with all these Dendros and Electro characters coming out. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of shake up in this new tier list. So, and a couple criterias, because I always have this in my comments, but criterias before I get to the tier list, right? So first off, if Ayaka, for example, I'm just using these two. If Xiao is ahead of Ayaka, it does not mean I think Xiao is better than Ayaka. I just happen to put Xiao in front of Ayaka, right? I don't have enough time to order these tier lists, and if I did, it'd be like an hour long or like 2 hours long. These videos are already long enough. They're like usually 40 minutes, so I don't want to like make them longer than it needs to be. I value your time, and I value my time, so you know, you can always discuss them in the comments below which ones you think is better than that, and I'll give you my opinion who I think is better than who, right? You hear that police siren? What are they there for? Alright, back to the tier list. Alright, so just because Xiao is in front of Ayaka does not mean I think he's better, you know, just blah blah blah, all that good stuff. Right? Next up is when I'm grading these, when I'm ranking these characters, I'm ranking these 5 stars at a C0. I'm not taking into their constellations and all that, right? I don't really want to take into constellations, because if you have like C6 constellation 5 stars, do you really need, in my opinion? Probably not. And for the 4 stars, I usually rank them around like a C3 level, because I think that's like kind of fair enough to free to play. Like if you've been playing this game long enough for the end game, you probably have most of these 4 stars at C3, and you kind of have like a good enough concept, right? So with all these disclaimers, let's get into the video. Right, first off, let's rank Ayaka. And for Ayaka, I will obviously put her top 10, one of the best DPS in the characters in the game. Not really much to say, everyone knows how good Ayaka is. Xiao is an interesting character because there is a new 4-star that came out. We all know who I'm talking about, the animal one, that buffs a lot of animal characters. And let's just say she is quite useful. But there is some flaws with her that I'll talk about when I get to her character. But with her being a high constellation, I think there is potential for Xiao to go through 11 to 20 and put in the right situation with that new animal support, where Farzan can definitely give the potential for Xiao to be in 11 to 20 range in the right situation. I'll talk about my flaws with the Farzan later in this video, but keep in mind, Xiao definitely has potential to be 11 to 20 range, but for right now, he sits at S tier. For issues, I'll go in the future. And it's not issues with him, it's an issue with the support. Next up is Diana, S tier, very solid support, great support. Definitely worth it being 11 to 20 range, but there's too many characters good in this game where I can't put her there. Henzo, A+ range, he's solid, just like, I just wouldn't recommend him using him over a lot of these animal characters in this game, because there's so many animal characters in this game that kind of do what Henzo does but better, especially because like he's kind of in that niche where it's like, would you want to use him as like an enabler, a DPS, or whatever? I think he's just more of a fun character than like a top tier in this game. If you want to destroy all the content, I wouldn't recommend Henzo, but he's still a solid unit, you know, still really good. Albedo, S tier, great. I don't think I really needed to save him. He's probably like the most friendly Geo support in the game, because usually Geo tends to only work with its own element, and Albedo kind of just works with all the elements. Definitely helpful. Zhongli, I think he is top 10. I'll futuristically think maybe he might not be in this, but right now he's still top 10 for me. He kind of is the only one who does what he does at an elite level, so I'll keep Zhongli here for a while. You know, obviously there's people in the arguments last year arguing that he shouldn't be the top 10 spot, but for me, I'll keep him on the top 10 spot. You know, his value is kind of decreasing over time, but you know, I'll keep him in the top 10 spot because shielders kind of are really useful in this game, and there is an argument where like maybe he's not as valued as he used to be, but you know, top 10 spot is still good for enough for me. Lisa, A tier, you know, solid, but you know, just so many other characters I'd rather prefer you guys use over Lisa. There's Fischl, there's Raiden, there's so many good electro characters in the game where Lisa is just, she's solid, but you know, not my first recommendation. Next up is Nahida. You know, my last tier was talking about Nahida, so if you want to get a more in-depth analysis of what I think about her, I obviously have her in top 10. And I think I've been saying her name wrong. It's not Nahida, it's something else, but I always pronounce it as Nahida. I don't know why. It's just like, you know, I'm American, don't get offended, but you know, I don't know how to pronounce all these names, guys, so don't hate on me in the comments where I'm saying these names wrong, but I usually call her Nahida. I think it's called Nahida, right? Nahida is her name, right? So Nahida, because you know, people want me to say her name right, Nahida is a top 10 character in the game, one of the best characters in the game. You know, I just happen to call her Nahida, even though I know her name, which is Nahida. Still a great character in the game, top 10 easily character in the game, arguably top 5. You know, I haven't really given into a thought where she ranks in the top 10, but definitely in the top echelon in the top 10, maybe like top 5. Next up is Ganyu. She recently got a demotion from top 10 spot to 11 to 20 spot. My reasoning was that I think I could just kind of just with Ganyu better, but Ganyu is like still definitely deserving a top 10 spot. Next up is Fischl. Fischl day and day becomes a character where I'm just like, does she need to be a top 10 spot? You know, can she, would I rank her over Zhongli? Maybe, but it's like, there's instances where I'm just like, Zhongli is pretty good, but you know, Fischl might be better. Just saying. But Fischl, 11 to 20 spot for right now. I obviously think she's on the top echelon of 11 to 20 spot, but you know, maybe in this end of the tier list I bump her up. Next up is Hu Tao. Hu Tao is a top 10 character for me. I think she is kind of losing her value because like single target DPS is not that valued anymore, because there's a lot of more like you need to use group DPS, but Hu Tao's still an amazing character. You know, it's just helpful that we got like new supports for pros every day, so it's like kind of hard not to give Hu Tao an edge. But either way, Hu Tao, an amazing unit. Top 10 for me. Obviously, there's an argument to be made that she could bump down, but you know, for right now, I'll keep her a top 10 spot. The Traveler, I rank the Traveler in pretty much like how he's always ranked. So I pretty much rank Animo like A+, Geo A tier, Electro A tier, and I think, where would I put him? Nah, Dendro. I probably put him A+ tier. We already have so many good Dendro characters. I wouldn't really prefer him over some other characters, but you know, I'll keep him A tier. Candace also A+ tier. It's kind of the thing where it's like I would recommend Dendro Traveler, but it's like, would I just hopefully pull Nahida? Hopefully the Nahida rerun comes out and you pull her, but you know, they're solid. It's just like they're not amazing that I put them S tier, because there is some amazing characters I always put in S- tier that I don't think they quite stack up against. Next up, you know, speaking of great characters who they don't stack up against, is Tomo. Well, I think I'll have Tomo S tier, right? Tomo is S tier, yeah. Why did I think he was S-? Tomo definitely deserves better than S-. Tomo's definitely an S tier character. Easily one of the highlights characters with this new update and recent updates, where he's very highly valued nowadays with new Dendro characters and all that. And Tomo just overall generally like super good. I was one who was always a Tomo activist. You know, I've always been supporting Tomo since day one. I've been a very big Tomo fan, so I've always seen the potential in Tomo, and he's finally realized it with these new characters coming out where people really value how good Tomo is nowadays, especially with the shields. And I always used to say he has some of the best shields in the game. He would just never had like the reason. There was never a reason why you needed to hit such a good shields. But Toma definitely S tier. I think the only thing that holds him back is that, you know, not too many teams need him. He's like in like a very certain case scenario where it's like, all right, you need a shooter. Toma's your guy. Obviously, Zhongli's also your guy, but you know, Toma is like, you just need pure shields, just use Toma. If you just need pure shields, just use Toma. Next up is Beidou. I think nowadays, I think Beidou's like S tier. The only thing that's giving her S tier is just mainly the Dendro stuff, and plus, you know, what's it called? The wolves, the Electro wolves are in the Spell Abyss right now, so she's still doing pretty good. So just, I think maybe next update when we're not having like Electro characters like valued right now in the Spell Abyss, she would probably get bumped down, but for right now, I'm just putting her S tier for right now. Next up is Kokomi, 11 to 20 spot right range. I think there's a lot of people in the comments saying last video where it's like, if she's in like some of the best teams, why don't I put her top 10? It's kind of the situation where it's like, yeah, she's in some of the best teams, but like, is she like the most necessary unit in those teams, right? Is she the most valued unit in this team? Most of the time when you put Kokomi on a squad, she's not like the thing. She's not the make or break thing in the team. She's like, I love to have Kokomi, but you know, I could probably use a Xingqiu. I could probably use a Yellen. A Yellen or Xingqiu might not be as good as what Kokomi can offer to certain teams, but they still can get the job done. And like, Kokomi is not like a Raiden, like a Nahida, and like turns of sports where it's like, if you don't have them, team's just done for. You're not gonna replicate the team. No, Kokomi is definitely a character where I'm just like, she's solid, right? She's in some good teams, but like, if she didn't have like certain teams, like, she wouldn't be that good. I'm sorry guys, but she is kind of a character who's like brought up by her DPS. She's not really like a support who brings them up. She's just a support that is very useful to many DPSs, and not many like certain DPSs. All right, this is not could be a Kokomi hate video or Kokomi rants. I'm just saying that's my opinion on Kokomi. That's why I don't rank her top 10. Next up, Dory. Dory's like A tier. Yeah, like A tier. I just can't. Yeah, A tier. I put her A tier for right now. I might just bump her up a little higher, but I just can't think of a situation where I'd ever recommend Dory. Like, Dory's kind of like a Lisa to me. Like, she's there, but like, would I recommend her? Probably not. Xingqiu, top 10. There's an argument that I had last tier list where one of my comments said, it's an argument of like, of Ayaka's in top 10 and Ganyu in top 20, shouldn't like Yellen or Xingqiu drop down? I can kind of understand what you're saying, right? But I think Yellen and Xingqiu are just like so close, and like, that's how you think Xingqiu is better. It's like this big of a gap, right? It's like barely a gap at all, right? So I don't think it's like, oh, we should only have one Xingqiu or Yellen. It's like, if there's no other, if you don't have Xingqiu like on a team, let's say you need Xingqiu for a Hu Tao team, or you need Xingqiu for a Raiden national team, and you're just like, oh, this other team needs Xingqiu, and like Xingqiu's probably one of the most valued supports in the game. Like, Yellen is like the second best option, and probably is the only second option who can do what Xingqiu does. And since Xingqiu is such a valid support, I think Yellen in result is also an amazing support. And that's how I view it. It's like they're kind of at the same level, so like I rank them at the same tier. That's how I view it. I don't think because one exists, I don't think it brings down the other's value. That's how I see it. Next up is Rosaria. Now, Rosaria is an S tier character for me. I think she is kind of losing a little value because like there's not that many teams right now that are using Rosaria, but I think when you do have her on certain teams, she's still amazing support. So Rosaria in S tier for me, gives you crit damage, gives you constant cryo damage, pretty solid. Klee, like an S minus tier. Klee's just good damage, but just clunky and just kind of just doesn't fit in the meta right now. Just like some issues with her that, you know, just are fundamental issues that you can't really fix. Next up is Cyno. Now, this might be biased talking about me. I made a last video of like kind of like a Genshin EXE type of video, like a Genshin edit, and let's just say in exploring what Cyno is capable of with the pairing of Nahida, that pairing is kind of unstoppable, not gonna lie. Pairing that duo has made me believe Cyno's through 11 through 20 spot. Now, I might get hate. I might get hate on this opinion, but I think right now, where I'm at right now, Cyno's through 11 through 20 spot. Now, Cyno is much like a Zhao, an Arataki Ito, where like they're kind of like the same type of character, but it just kind of depends who has a better supports at the time. That's how I kind of like rank those characters. Like Zhao, you know, he doesn't have as many good supports as like an Arataki Ito, because Arataki Ito has some many really good supports that are in his niche, which is well, not even many, just like one, like Goro. Goro's an amazing support. So Cyno has Nahida. He has Fischl, if you decide to use Fischl. He has Kyuki, and you can use Mana or you can use Sucrose, right? A plethora of supports Cyno could use, and I think because of that reason, I'm bumping Cyno up because Cyno and Nahida kind of work amazing together. So for me, that reason, Cyno is kind of like a DPS who works so good at, or his supports are so good, it brings him up. To me, he's kind of like the reverse Kokomi, because like Kokomi has such great supports, it brings her from a good support to even a better support. And for Cyno, it's like he's a good DPS, but he has such good supports that it brings him from a good DPS to a great DPS. That's how I'm seeing it right now. You can hate him in the comments, but might be biased, but Cyno I think is a level 220 spot in my opinion right now. Ayato's an 11 through 20 spot as well. Pretty solid. You know, Ayato's just amazing. He's kind of like Child, but does something better than Child and something different. I like Child a little more, but you know, still amazing as well. Next up, Shenhe, S tier. I don't think I really have much to say about her. You know, great crowd support, but you know, pulling on a support like a Shenhe is like, I wouldn't really recommend it just because she's a 5-star. She's still an amazing character, but you know, 5-star support, you know, it's kind of iffy. If they're not like amazing 5-star support like a Nahida or like a Yellen, like I wouldn't recommend pulling her. But you know, Shenhe is kind of like, if you really want to optimize certain crowd teams, pull for Shenhe. You know, that's kind of my thoughts. Sucrose is an 11 through 20 spot. You know, Sucrose is amazing. Not to mention, you know, we got some new animal characters coming out that maybe Sucrose can be good with. You know, like Wander, aka Scara, but you know, Sucrose amazing, still will always be amazing. There's always obviously still arguments for Sucrose to be in the top 10 spot, but for me, comfortably 11 to 20 spot, and probably in that high end for me. Next up is Amber, one of the worst characters in the game, not gonna lie. So Amber, you know, put her B+. And I had these comments arguing in the last video. Why are my rankings like this, right? Well, it is pretty late in the video. It's like, I don't know, like 10 minutes in or like 15 minutes in. I don't know how long we're into the video, but you know, pretty much like people are saying, why is there like no F tier, or why is there no D tier or C tier? Well, how I view it, it's like Amber herself, we've seen in the past, she could solo Spiral Abyss if you put enough investment into her. It might not be like 36 star or like well, you probably get 36 star. It might not be like the most optimal thing to do, but like we've seen in the past where you can find a way where you can put Amber on a team and still make it work, or you can put someone like Elisa and still make it work. And if you're able to defeat Spiral Abyss 12 floor 12 with Amber, is she a bad unit? Not really, because like she's still like solid and usable, but like I give her just a B ranking where she does like, she's good. Yeah, you can use her, but just I wouldn't recommend it. And that's how I kind of see like the A tier, right? Like Lisa and Dory's like, yeah, they're solid, just wouldn't recommend it. That's how I view it. So pretty much like I don't think there's any bad characters. I just think there's like worse characters. That's how I kind of see it, right? There's good characters and there's like not so good characters, right? I don't think there's like good characters and there's like horrible characters. It's not how I see it in the game. So that's my viewpoint. Just had to throw that in real quick. Kai S-, Kai is solid, but you know, better crowd supports in my opinion. Chi-Chi, we're just gonna speed around this. Chi-Chi A tier. I don't really think I need to say anything about Chi-Chi. It's a healer, but you know, why would you want a healer who only heals? Like if you have other stuff that makes you a more valuable healer. Next up is Kyuki. Kyuki, I think she might be S tier. S tier. Yeah, I'm probably putting her S tier. Kyuki, an amazing character, amazing support, heals, gives you electro damage, and she can give you pretty good solid damage as support. Kyuki, an amazing. I love her, and she's doing so great with my Cyno team that it just makes me like her even more, because if you're making Cyno better, you're making my life better. That's what I think, right? So Kyuki, an amazing support, S tier worthy. I think maybe I had her S- or S tier in my last tier of this video. I forgot, but you know, Kyuki, an amazing character, an amazing support, definitely worthy of S tier. Next up is Better Call Saul, and Better Call Saul is like an S- tier. Yanfei, you know, she's solid, but you know, I just wouldn't really say she goes into like S tier. Maybe with like constellations, maybe if you see Sixer, probably an S tier worthy character, but you know, like at around C3, I think she's an S-. I think there's an argument made that she can be better than Klee, mainly because she's a 4-star, but besides that, I think she's like an S- character. Next up is Nilou. Nilou is 11 through 20 spot for me. I did hear your comments. I did see them. Okay, guys. So I obviously understand that Nilou should be bumped up. I've done more research, and with all these like new developments, because I don't like to like push the pendulum, right? I don't want to rush things. I want to sit them out and see what you guys think. And I've concluded Nilou has become 11 to 20 spot for me. Just like a bump up one tier, so it's not that big of a jump. Maybe in the future she'll jump up to like a top 10 character, but right now she's sitting through 11 to 20 spot for me. Super solid. If you want to go more in depth into her, just watch my other tier lists dedicated mainly to her. Next up is Diluc. Diluc is obviously outdated but still solid, so S- character for me. Just all the characters who kind of like other characters who power crept Diluc. So Diluc is he is kind of power crept, but still very usable, but still really solid in certain teams, especially because there's always going to be good Hydra supports that kind of keep Diluc viable nowadays. Next up is Yunjin, and Yunjin is an S- tier character. Unlike Toma, she kind of only works with like maybe 1 or 2 DPSs, and that main one is Yoimiya. And like if you don't have Yoimiya, maybe Yanfei isn't the best option. Yanfei, I mean Yunjin. That's what I don't know why I messed her name up. Yunjin, I mean. Next up is Razor. Razor's like, I'm actually thinking about demoting him. I'm actually thinking about demoting Razor, because I don't even think Razor's that good right now. Yeah, I'm demoting Razor right now just because like physical damage on the whole just like kind of fell off. I'm not gonna lie. Eula, I'll get to Eula later, but Razor, I think you're finally demoted to an A+. Sad to see. Never thought I'd see Razor in an A+ tier, but Razor, you kind of fell off. Just physical damage isn't looking too strong right now. Hopefully in the future we get some help for physical damage units, but right now it ain't looking too good for us, Razor. Next up is Raiden. I think we kind of all know where Raiden is. Raiden's top 10. If you don't think she's top 10, just go to a mental hospital, come back, and you're ready. You're ready to watch this video. So Raiden, obviously top 10, does everything great. One of the best characters in the game, arguably one of the best characters in the game. Top 3 easily for me in the game. Speaking of some of the best characters in the game, Bennett has to also go up there. Bennett, amazing. What else do we have to say? Bennett's an amazing character in the game. Not really much to say about Bennett. We all kind of know how cracked he is. Next is Barbara. Barbara goes like A tier, right? Yeah, A tier. I don't really value Barbara that much anymore. I think we just got too many good healers where it's like, yeah, just like Chi-Chi, Barbara just not look really good nowadays. Next up is, man, I think I'm forgetting these guys' names. Did I forget one of these guys' names? This is Xinyan. Did I call someone else Xinyan? It doesn't matter. People in the comments will roast me about getting one of these characters' names wrong. So Xinyan is B+ tier for me, one of the worst characters in the game. I'm pretty sure I called someone else Xinyan in this video, but I don't remember. You guys will call me out. So Xinyan, even though she's one of my favorite characters in the game, design-wise, B+ for me. Just wish she was better, but that kind of happens when Genshin didn't put that much value into creating a character like Xinyan. But kind of just sucks that she had to be an Amber tier worthy. Cyno is like, you're animal, so I'll give you A+. I was thinking about putting her right here, but I'll put her right here. Maybe she'll bump up, maybe not. I don't know. Cyno just like A+ tier, A tier for me, but I don't really have much to say. Fun, but just like not really highly recommended in certain animal characters. Right, next up is Yellen. Yellen's easily top 10 for me. Not really much to say. She kind of is just like Xin Chu, but 5-star and kind of does a little stuff different. But definitely top 10 worthy. Next up is Layla. I have her A+ tier. She's alright, but just I don't really have much of an opinion on her. Just you can watch my other video where I talk more in depth on her. I don't really have much to say about a new update. She kind of just is the same as she was last update. So Layla, same thoughts, same character. Really don't really have a difference on her. Childe is an easy 11 to 20 character for me. Really solid, really good. One of the best enablers in the game, or the best enabler in my opinion in the game. So Childe, easily 11 to 20 spot. Next up is Candace. Who's Candace? Right, Candace is like A tier for me. Candace is just like, it's alright. She's just kind of like, we're just like really not needing her nowadays. So A tier character for me. Next up is Yaimiko. Yaimiko, I think I'll bump her to 11th to 20th spot. There's this person in my Discord, join my Discord, and link in the description and link in the comments, who is named Cobb15, who's going to be so excited to see Yaimiko finally in 11th to 20th spot, because I've never had Yaimiko in the 11th to 20th spot. This is her first entry, along with Nilou and Cyno, to make it to the top 11th to 20th spot, so I hope you're happy, Cobb. So this is her first appearance in the 11th to 20th spot. So I hope you're happy, Cobb. Yaimiko finally made it to the 11th to 20th spot. I hope you're happy and cheering, because I used to make fun about how Yaimiko was never really a top tier. She was solid, but S tier. But in my opinion, never good enough to make 11th to 20th spot. But with all these Dendro characters and all these characters that work so good with Yaimiko, I think she deserves to be bumped up to 11th to 20th spot. Next up is Eula. Now, speaking of Yaimiko being in the 11th to 20th spot, she has to take, of course, someone's place. And unfortunately, it has to be Eula's. Eula is being bumped down from S tier. When I was talking about Razor, about how physical damage dealer wasn't looking good for him, that happens to be the case for Eula. Eula, one of my favorite characters in the game, love her so much. Probably has one of my favorite teams in the game. Funnest character to play. Still has amazing damage dealing, but the Sprawl Abyss, just not meant for the world's against Eula. They don't want Eula to succeed. So Eula, unfortunately, she has to bump down from 11th to 20th spot. She used to rule that domain where she'd always be one of my guaranteed 11th to 20 spots, but Yaimiko finally overtakes her for the first time. Sad day to see. My argument used to be Yaimiko was never better than Eula. Now it's the opposite. So sad day to see. Next up is Noelle. Noelle, you can also be S tier. Noelle's pretty good, but I'm just sad to see Eula. Eula have to finally come down. So sad day to see. Venti is my 11 to 20 spot. Now there is 11 to 20 spot is completely filled. So you know who the next character is gonna be who doesn't make the S tier is Aratagido. Aratagido didn't make my 11 to 20 spot. Aratagido did not make my 11 to 20 spot. Nilou had to take someone's place, and Nilou took Aratagido's spot, or you can say Cyno took Aratagido's spot, whatever you want to say. I think it's probably most appropriate to see Cyno took Aratagido's spot, because they kind of do the same things, but I think Cyno right now just has the better supports to be put in the 11 to 20 spot. So Cyno deserving 11 to 20 spot, not really much to say, but Aratagido, hopefully we get better supports in the future, so where he's valued more. Next is Alloy. Do I really need to say much about Alloy? Even though she was her character was presented in the Game of the Year awards, she's not that valuable in this game. So Alloy B+ here, so one of the worst characters in the game. But all characters can probably be other content. There's probably some people who use Alloy. Yeah, those crazy people. But Alloy B+ here, the worst here, bottom 3 of the characters in Genshin Impact. Next up is Kazuha. Kazuha, easily top 10 character for me. Not really much to say about Kazuha. He's just an amazing character, pretty much. I think he is getting less valued. That's one thing I do have to say about Kazuha. With Wander and so many animal characters coming out, like Kazuha is definitely getting valued where I don't even know if I would put him in my top 3 anymore, just because there's so many amazing animal characters. Is eventually, for example, if we had 5 Xingqius, eventually Xingqiu is not gonna have that much value anymore. That's how I kind of see it. 5 characters who are kind of like Kazuha, or kind of can do what Kazuha does, but there's so many characters who are kind of like Kazuha. It's kind of making him lose his value a bit. So that's how I see it. Next up is Jean. Jean is S tier. I was thinking about bumping her down. Someone in my comments was saying my Jean hate is so apparent, it's so noticeable, and I will continue to hate Jean. And maybe if there's any characters on the tier list that I can see that I can just be persuade me to put her down. Not really, but I'll put Jean S tier for now. But Jean, I don't know how long she'll stay S tier, just because Kyuki, kind of think she's better. Not gonna lie. Tignari, S tier. Not really much to say. Tignari, one of my favorite characters in the game. An amazing DPS, or you can use him as support if you one of those insanos. But Tignari still an amazing DPS, great in the game. Obviously not top tier, and I don't think he'll ever reach the 11 to 20 spot. I think he only reached the 11 to 20 spot when it first came out, when there was only one Dendro DPS, which was him, and he was kind of the only Dendro character who was kind of good in the game, so it kind of made his value super increased. But nowadays we got Nahida to devalue Tignari. So Tignari once had the throne of 11 to his 20 spot. Now he doesn't really have that throne anymore. Next is Chongyun. Chongyun is A tier. Not really much to say. Chongyun is not a character that I would recommend over some of these other cryo characters. We just have so many good cryo characters that I just really don't think, in my opinion, he's quite at that level. Next up is Ning Wong. Ning Wong is definitely S tier. Yeah, S tier for me. No, obviously there's no argument where she should be down here, but I think she's still pretty solid. Still pretty solid in my opinion. Still does great damage if you have her as a support for Aratakido. Next up is Yoimiya. And Yoimiya, S tier, obviously super good, super solid. Obviously an argument for the 11 to 20 spot range. In some instances when it comes to just mainly single target DPS, because she is indeed a god at that. So Yoimiya, amazing. Kujo Sara, S minus tier. And the only reason she's S minus tier is because I don't want to rank her at C6. And I don't rank most of my 4 stars at C6. Kujo Sara, if she's not C6, she has her flaws. But when she's C6, she is really good. But you know, thinking about her around a C3 area, I think she's an S minus character. She's just too flawed and too buggy and too clunky for me to rank her any higher than S minus tier. I wouldn't really recommend her over some electro characters like a Beto or a Kyuki. Next up is Goro. Goro's S tier. Goro is kind of the person who's the embodiment of a god in a niche, right? If we just had more Geo DPSs, Goro would easily be 11 to 20 spot, arguably top 10 spot. But since like Goro kind of only works with like 2 Geo DPSs, which was Noelle and Aratakido, it's just kind of hard to make the argument where he's not just like another Yunjin, where it's like he only works in like with some sort of supports. But Goro's at a level where it's like he's so good in his niche that it kind of just uplifts him from being in his niche, if that makes any sense. He's just so good in his niche that he deserves to be S tier. And in some instances when Aratakido was in 11 to 20 spot, I would have Goro on 11 to 20 spot because Goro is just an amazing support in his niche. Next up is Xinglang. Xinglang, obviously top 10 character in the game, part of the Radiant national team. Really hard to argue that she is not a GOAT in her situation. Xinglang, just an amazing character. Really hard to refuse otherwise. You can rank where she belongs in like the top 10 or whatever, but you know, Xinglang, an amazing character. Next up is Keqing. Keqing is like a S tier character as well. You know, definitely has her stuff, you know, with all these Dendro characters and these artifacts, the new artifact up to date that came out with like 3.0. That definitely helps her out. So Keqing, S tier for me. Mona, obviously S tier. I don't really think I had to tell Mona, you know, good hydro damage, can kind of do what Kokomi does for certain teams, you know, buff and kind of immobilize certain characters. So Mona, pretty good. Now time to talk about the last 2 characters. Now I have a lot to talk about these last 2 characters, mainly Farzan, right? I think Wanderer has less to say about him because Wanderer's success kind of benefits a little bit off of Farzan, because Farzan is kind of the Wanderer's best support in some instances, but in some instances he's not. Let me explain, right? So the Wanderer is a character who I think is an amazing character, just hasn't had the right teams yet, right? Obviously he has some solid teams. Obviously he has some solid teams that help him out super well, right? That fit him pretty well. But Farzan is kind of his best support, or Farzan's kind of Wanderer's best support. So pretty much to put it bluntly, Farzan is a character very much reminiscent of Kujo Sara. And in case you guys don't know, I'm not that big of a fan of Kujo Sara. Kujo Sara is a character where people love or people hate, and the reason people hate her is because you don't have her C6, and if you do love her, you have her C6. So those are the only 2 instances where you can either love or hate Kujo Sara. And for me, I like to look at Kujo Sara in the objective way. For a lot of people is to look at her not C6, because you know not everyone has her C6, and you know I want to take into account most people's perspective. So Farzan is very much like that. C2 helps out Farzan a lot, but C6 is when she becomes an amazing character in the game. One of the best supports for animal characters like a Zhao or a Wanderer, right? So that's how she's amazing, right? And if you have Farzan at C0 and you don't have her with 300 energy recharge, you're kind of screwed, not gonna lie, because she has like very low energy. Like I think she gives you like 2 energy particles, which is like super low for support. So like you're gonna need a support for another support to like get her energy. So you're, like a support is usually supposed to get energy for the main DPS, right? She needs a support herself they give her energy herself, unless you want to have like 300% energy recharge. But you know, I don't think a lot of people are gonna be able to have that. So for me, she's probably gonna rank in like A+ tier, because she's definitely still like good with like a Zhao and a Scara, but it's like that type of investment you're gonna have to put in her, like 300% energy recharge is literally insane. So like, and like there will be like almost no situation where like a regional player will be able to do that without having to invest so much time and so many great artifacts to make her amazing. So A+ tiers for me. Obviously, if you get her C6, she's definitely more valuable, probably like an S tier valued character. And like Scaramouche or Wanderer, whatever you want to call him, is an S tier character for me, right? I think the only thing that holds me back from putting him in like an 11 to 20 spot and a top 10 spot is that Farzan is literally just holding him back. Farzan can literally be the supporter that bumps him up to 11 to 20 spot. If Farzan wasn't flawed and, you know, Genshin didn't want to put their greedy little mitts into her constellations to make her where she needs to have a C6 to make Scaramouche and Zhao be an amazing DPS character in the game, I think they could have obviously made it to the 11 to 20 spot and the top 10 spot. But since Genshin wants to make everyone pull for these constellations, and since Farzan's going to be wild till we get another rerun and for another banner, for her to get constellations for many people who are free to play or low spenders, most people are not going to get her C6. So like A+ tier for me, in my opinion. If Scaramouche had like a C6 Farzan, Scaramouche can make an argument where he is an 11 to 20 character, and he can make that argument for Zhao as well, or maybe even say Kazuha, because like some people use Kazuha DPS. But you know, it ultimately comes down to Farzan is kind of holding Scar back from being a really great character. So it's not really much of Scar's fault. It's morely of like Farzan and the Genshin devs for being greedy. I'm not gonna hold it back. I'm literally gonna say bluntly, from being greedy, from making Farzan such a hard character, hard cap to make these 5 stars great. So pretty much like Scaramouche is not free to play friendly because his first 4-star needs constellations, which is just a crazy thing to say, because like that's what we used to say about 5 stars, and it's kind of insane that now they're doing it to 4 stars, where now we're gonna need these crazy constellations to make these characters viable. Just sad to see. I don't really like talking about how greedy Genshin likes to be, but you know, I'm bringing it up in this video. Genshin's definitely being greedy with making Farzan needing to be C6 for Wanderer or Zhao to be at 11 to 20 spot to be one of the greatest characters in the game. So that's kind of my thoughts for the video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Tell me guys what you think, and let me know down in the comments what you guys think of this like whole Farzan situation, where if you don't ever see 6, like the Wanderer and Zhao are kind of being held back in a sense, right? Obviously leave comments down below. I want to hear your guys' thoughts about what you guys think is right or what you think is wrong in this tier list. I just want to hear all your opinions, because you know, it definitely helps me out a lot for my future tier list, to see where you guys thoughts at and what the community values in the game, because you know, my opinion can only do so much, right? I only can talk about my like opinion and my thoughts on certain characters. You guys, some of you guys like put investment into some of these characters that I don't put too much investment into, right? Like a Shenhe, some people probably like spent hours making her like the best she can be and like know her real value, compared to me who watches footage, mainly just watches footage on how good Shenhe could be, or like someone like a Noelle, where I don't really have her build up as much as like some other people who have her like level 90, while I just have her like a level 70 through 80 character, right? So people have put more value into certain characters, and I want to hear your guys' opinion, and let me know your thoughts, and make sure to like and subscribe and do all that good stuff, and I hope to guys see you next time. So I hope to guys see you next time. Make sure to like and subscribe and do all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys later. Later, hater.